In this video, I'm going to be comparing both versions of LEGO Star Wars Ghost playsets. From 2014, we have the 75053 The Ghost with 929 pieces. It originally released for $90, but adjusted for inflation is about $115. And now in 2023, we have the 75357 Ghost and Phantom 2 with 1,394 pieces, and it sells for $160. And both of these ships have the same footprint, so in this video, we're going to find out where the extra 450 pieces came from. Using my comparison scorecard, we'll start with the minifigs. The old Ghost had 4, the new Ghost has 5, and it's pretty cut and dry. More is better, and therefore the new Ghost should win this category. Well, I think it's a bit more nuanced than that, because I think with the new Ghost, even though they are really good minifigures, there's a couple characters here with First Officer Hawkins and Lieutenant Beta that I just don't care about. General Hera Syndulla is nice. Jason Syndulla is nice, although his hair should be green instead of brown. And hey, it would be ironic because they changed out the original Kanan's hair from black to brown in the original Ghost set, so it'd be funny if they did it to his son in the new Ghost set from brown to green. But obviously the fifth minifig is Chopper, and I think his torso still looks weird to me with the all-white look. Although I will say I think the new Hera minifigure is an upgrade. I think they really nailed the look to her live-action appearance. Look, both minifigs are good, but man, that new one is really, really good. Anyway, I don't think the new Ghost minifig selection is bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just not as iconic as the original Ghost selection. We had Zeb, Hera, Kanan, and a Stormtrooper. The Stormtrooper does kind of feel like a filler throw-in, and we could have had something way better, but I definitely see the sentiment out there that the new minifig selection doesn't excite as well as the old one did, and I am definitely in that camp. I think the Rebels Ghost crew and Stormtrooper are the better figure selection versus the new one, so that's one in the win column for Rebels. The first play feature I'll discuss on both these is a little turret underneath of both cockpits. They both look similar and possess similar abilities to move up and down and swivel back and forth, but you'll find the 2014 one to be a little bit more free-flowing because it's not actually connected to anything. The 2023 Ghost actually has the ability to fire off the spring-loaded shooters when you turn it just enough. I think that's a fantastic way to integrate the spring-loaded shooter play feature. The 2014 model also has spring-loaded shooters, but they're located a little further back on the model and have to be pressed in with your finger to be able to shoot off, which, like, no matter what, it's just as easy to do. But I think it's a really cool mechanism to have included on the new Ahsoka model. Both of these Ghosts should have a ramp underneath that front cockpit, but neither of them have that because I don't think it's feasible in this scale. Now, the 2023 Ghost tries to mitigate that by including ramps on the side of the Ghost, and I think that's a pretty decent play feature. It gives you a way for the minifigs to get inside the Ghost, especially as we'll see there's a much more sizable interior, so it just makes sense. But for the 2014 Ghost, there are escape pods on either side. They sit on skids and can be pulled out of their slots pretty easily. Both escape pods have the exact same interior, and granted we are in the play category, I think the escape pods are the better, cooler play feature, even though they make less sense canonically. Both cockpits can be removed to more easily place minifigs inside, and I do find the Ahsoka Ghost to be a little bit easier to pull the cockpit away from the rest of the ship. Overall, both these features work as intended. You'll also find the ability to raise the windscreen on top so you can place a minifig in there as well. The cannon on top of the Rebels Ghost can spin completely around. The same cannot be said for the Ahsoka Ghost, where you can just move it up and down. But the process of placing a minifig in the Rebels version is much more convoluted, as you have to remove this entire capsule, then you have to remove this top piece, and then you can place Zeb in the chair, and then you can put it back on. And you can see his head peeking through. That's not bad looking. And then you can place the whole thing back into its slot, and it's a little difficult and moves around a lot, but there you go. It looks okay. The Ahsoka Ghost is so much better at this because all you have to do is lift this piece up, drop your figure in, and you're good to go. Like, what an easier way to do it. Now, granted, you lose the ability to spin, and that is part of the play functionality, but I think the ease of use here, there is a lot to be said for. There is an interior on the 2014 Ghost, and it's about as big as a New York City apartment. It can barely fit your Hera minifigure, and at that, you have to move her back when she's standing up so that you can actually close the top hatch. This is probably the sorriest excuse for an interior on any LEGO Star Wars set ever. It's so small and devoid of anything. It's just sad to see. And I think LEGO Star Wars designers knew this was one of the biggest criticisms because with the 2023 Ghost, they literally threw the kitchen sink at it. There's so many fun details like the stairway leading into the cockpit, the Melu Run fruit inside of the crate. There's a couple of studs specifically for Chopper to stand on. The caution stickers on the ground say airlock and Aurubesh, and of course they lead out to the docking ports. It's a bona fide interior in the 2023 Ghost, but the 2014 Ghost strikes back with a unique play feature of its own. Not as good as the interior, I will say, but it does have a hidden compartment on the underside side where you'll find a crate with a Jedi holocron inside, so that's a neat Easter egg, I suppose. The panels on top of the Rebels Ghost could be lifted up where you could find an extra spring-loaded missile and an area where you could store more weapons, versus the Ahsoka Ghost where you just can't do any of that. Everything there is just structural. Nothing there is a play feature. And then finally, we have the docking bays for your Phantoms, and they look substantially different between these models. Now, the 2014 Ghost released separately from the original Phantom set that was to attach to this set, and so you had to buy them separately. But with the newer Ghost, they included the Phantom 2 as a model in scale to this new Ghost perfectly. And what you'll find in both cases is that the Phantoms are easy to attach and detach, and they both work fine in their own right. Now, the Phantom 2, of course, adds more playability to the new Ghost because it's just an additional vehicle included to fly around, and you can put another minifig inside, and there's another crate included, and you can put Chopper's head on top. There's just a lot more added on with the new Ghost that you don't have to go and buy another separate Lego set for. The Ahsoka Ghost seems like it's just the better playset. It's time to dive into which of these models is better for your display, and of course the overall accuracy of these, which you would hope they're doing better 9 years later at. The inclusion of Sam Blue on the Ahsoka model immediately sets it apart. The 2014 set had no Sam Blue at all, and having that Sam Blue I think is the right move, both accuracy-wise and to just make it look a whole lot better. The overall shaping on the new Ghost is much improved, as the old Ghost did not have a straight line on the edge. It's supposed to be a straight line, and on the new set it is, which looks so much better compared to what we had here. Even though this looks fine, it's just wrong. The siding also had large gaps, which is vastly improved in the new Ghost. As you can see, they used a really cool technique to have the studs face outward, and I think it just looks so much better. Another small improvement can be found right around the cockpits, where some sticker detailing just makes it look a little bit better, although I'm sure some people will prefer that brick-built look. The large dome windscreen piece on both sets are printed, and it seems like the newer one is slightly more accurate. Above that, we have stickers on both, and I do like that the white stands out a lot more on the 2014 Ghost. You can just tell that it's white, versus the 2023 Ghost, it looks a little bit dreary and kind of has a blue tone to it. So I think the windscreen sticker definitely looks better on the old one just because of the color. While the docking port on the old set definitely doesn't look bad, the docking port on the new set, because they use so many more small pieces, just looks far better. And this is a great example of one of those places where using more pieces gets that piece count up, but doesn't necessarily equate to a larger size. The shaping and overall design on the top middle section of the 2023 Ghost looks far better than it does on the 2014 Ghost. It just looks small. It's got a little bit of depth to it where it gets a little angle down, but I feel like this one's much larger, includes more details, even with stickers, and it might be controversial, but I do think the sticker there on the side looks better than what they tried to brick build here. Of course, it looks pretty ridiculous to have such a large gap on the 2014 model, and the 2023 model completely gets rid of this. It looks so much nicer on top. Now, it feels like the biggest aesthetic bump actually comes where you attach the Phantoms. On the 2014 model, if you don't go out and buy the other model, or if you didn't happen to come across the 2-in-1 value pack that already included the other model, you would just be left with a gaping hole on the back of your Ghost, and to some degree, you should have a space that's open where the ship is supposed to dock, because that's how the Ghost is, but the 2014 one is just super large. It looks super ridiculous to me when you don't have anything in there, and I just never liked it. The 2023 Ghost completely gets rid of this problem because, one, it includes the Phantom with it, so you'll always have the ship to fill the space, but also the space is just not that distracting when you don't have it filled in. It's substantially smaller because it only has to accommodate a substantially smaller version of the Phantom, and that version of the Phantom is much more correctly in scale with the 2023 Ghost versus the 2017 Phantom 2 not being in scale at all with the 2014 Ghost. And it makes sense, they were sold as separate sets, not necessarily made to be perfectly in scale, but they don't look good when attached, versus the newer one just looks really good when attached. I also think the engines have seen a pretty massive upgrade in the looks department. The new ones just look way better. And looking to the underside of the Ghost, we actually have landing gear on the new set. The old set only had the inverted tiles. The other thing you can see here is what looks like a lot of wasted space on the 2014 Ghost, which, as we know, has hardly any interior space, and it feels like there's space here that could have been used to create a larger interior, but ultimately just wasn't. wasn't, resulting in a much worse play experience. Pretty clearly and thankfully, the better designed version of the Ghost is the newer and more expensive Ghost. It would have been pretty sorry to see it get beat out by the 2014 one given the advantages it has. When it comes to comparing the value and possibly making a purchasing decision between two sets where one is long retired and one has just released, it's pretty obvious that buying the new one is going to be far cheaper and the far better value in the vast majority of cases. If you want to buy the old Ghost set, it'll cost you like $1,000. If you want to buy the new Ghost set, it'll cost you $160. The choice is clear. You're buying the new one. But I think it is important to know whether or not LEGO is giving you a raw deal now compared to what they were giving you 9 years ago in this case with the Rebels Ghost. And earlier I said the 2014 Ghost would sell for about $115 in today's money versus the $160 for the 2023 Ghost. That's an extra $45, and the big question is, where does it come from? Well, obviously part of that is the Phantom that's included. You had to buy the Phantom separately in the old set, but the old Phantoms were much larger than the Phantom you get in this set. Say this is a little bit bigger than a Microfighter, so maybe that's $15 or $20 of value, which if we're trying to compare apples to apples here would mean the Ghost on its own would be about $140 versus the $115 of the old Ghost. And so for what is about an extra $25, it feels like LEGO has provided a model that is more than $25 better. You have a far more massive interior with far more details. The model externally looks much more beautiful for your display. It's a complete set, of course, including the Phantom 2. The notoriety of the characters in the newer set is not quite as high as it was in the older set, so that's definitely a trade-off. And while I'm very against using price per piece as your only metric for value in a LEGO set, for those that do care with inflation factored in, the old Ghost is actually a worse value at 12 cents per piece versus the 11 cents per piece we're seeing in 2023, but obviously the 2023 set uses smaller pieces. Anyway, I would absolutely say the new Ghost is the better value at $160. And that same sentiment will carry over to my general opinion category on these sets, where the old Ghost just looks a bit derpy. The new Ghost looks almost like a UCS model in a way. Like, I would love to have a stand with this thing to be able to throw it on display, and hey, maybe one day LEGO will make a UCS model of the Ghost. I ultimately do wish the new Ghost had a better character lineup, and that's the only place where I really lean towards the old Ghost as far as my opinion, where I'm like, man, that Zeb and that Kanan are nice. And I don't quite feel the same way about Chopper and Jason. But I was not a Star Wars Rebels fan when it first came out, therefore I didn't buy the LEGO Star Wars Ghost when it first came out because I was a little bit more limited with my LEGO funds at the time. And in passing on it, I also passed on the potential nostalgia I could be having right now for that set. I still feel like I would be able to look at it objectively and be like, yeah, the new one's better, but I don't have that frame of reference, just so you know. Anyway, the 2023 Ahsoka series Ghost is going to win by a landslide 4-1 score. If you want to buy the set, please use the affiliate link in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoyed this comparison, and let me know in the comments what you want to see me compare next.